All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Oregairu, Season 2, Episode 5. So, Yui is thinking about running for Student Council President.
Yeah.
Save the club. Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
It is indeed.
Anything that gives Yui more agency in the story, I'm here for.
Oh, totally.
I'm very
Same.
excited about.
Yep.
And it's a huge aspect of her character to not be following around other people doing their stuff there. Even though this is done in response mostly to two other people's actions. Two very close people in her
Two
life.
Bakas.
Who are stubbornly fighting on their separate hills.
Right.
Which means that what she's doing is not something that's going to help them, but in some ways it could help herself.
Right.
Which I'm kind of glad, because, well... with what Hachiman and Yukino are doing right now, we need the other characters in their lives to kind of keep going and move in such a way to where they end up being forced to respond.
Yeah. And Hachiman, well, the thing that hadn't really been something you had to think about up till now, of what's Yui going to do, right? It was always, what's Yukino going to do? What am I going to do? Well, now that's different. That's changed. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I can't wait to get inside his head more, because there's a lot of things going on right now where I could see him being very aware and also very confused. So I want to see where that line is drawn, where the things get murky in the middle to where he thinks he maybe knows what's going on, or where he thinks he doesn't know what's going on. And there could be some cool conflict there. And
what he'll actually acknowledge and address, as opposed to just being like, that's uncomfortable, let's ignore it for now.
Right. Yeah. And then also the stuff that's going on with Haruno.
Right.
And then I really love what they're doing also with Hayama. Like,
yes.
Hayama keeps being involved in the way that he's been recently.
Keeps getting better and better.
Keeps getting better and better. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Oh, what an amazing episode.
This
fantastic, right?
So good. Like,
Komachi
she was amazing. Like, this has got to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, examples of, like, sibling support in anime. Like, because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, they're usually a bit at each other's, like, cat,
exactly.
dog, kind of.
And this, I feel like, struck a really good balance between... being sort of at each other's throats a little bit, but then at the same time, understanding each other and all of that stuff and being there for each other, because they do care about each other.
Right, and you can still see that they like to poke fun at each other, and they enjoy kind of, I would say, making fun of the other person and stuff.
Right.
But
they've got plenty of ammo after all.
Yeah, but the fact that they both did this and went through this and talked about it, and it was after Hachiman sat down and was like, okay, I screwed up, not just with Yukino and Yui and stuff, but I screwed up with you and how I treated you the other day, so I need to apologize for that. But him also saying, like, hey, I'm then willing to sit down, talk with you through this.
Yep.
He's not really changing, guys. This is the thing that I think is really important to bring up here, is that him doing this is kind of saying, like, hey, I need help. That's the part where he's changing, is him being willing to ask for help.
Yes.
But he's still going to be using ultimately a method that will then make Yukino be upset with him, which is what happens later.
And this is what I love about how this show handles its characters so much, because when you think about it, this is a drama that sells the drama very well. If it didn't sell this drama very well, I would consider this to be melodrama. But because it sells it so well, it's the farthest thing from it. Because the situation here, it could all be solved if Hachiman just had the realization, just finally decided to change, whatever, right? And he's not. He's making little bits of progress that are very, very
noticeable.
They're visible, right? Yeah, exactly. Him opening up to Komachi about this stuff. That's good stuff. It's not the final ultimate change that we need to see in order for this story to be done.
That's not even realistic.
But that's not realistic, right? So I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I just think the distinction that needs to be made here with melodrama is, in a way, it's not really about how it's sold well. Thus it's not melodrama, or it is. it's about the fact that the characters are doing things that make sense for the characters to do. Melodrama would be more of something where the characters' decisions get sacrificed and their characters, the characterization gets sacrificed for the sake of drama, thus it's melodrama.
Maybe selling it isn't quite the right word, but that's what I mean when I say selling the drama.
Right, I'm just translating for everyone else because I think I knew what you meant. But
the shorthand can get, using shorthand when not everyone necessarily knows what I mean by that shorthand. Thank you.
Right, and the characters here are engaging in, I would say, melodramatic drama at times because there's something going on right now with Yukino that could be more along the lines of characters not willing to change on both sides.
Yeah.
Thus, we've now come to the point where a line might have gotten drawn in the sand, and rather than bending and adapting a little bit, we might see where a certain character's lack of ability to perceive what was going on, whereas he's usually very perceptive.
Sure.
Might have just screwed up big time.
Well, and without
realizing it.
And I wanna hear what you think about this because this feels to me like it's the other side of the coin to all the situations where we could see why Yui and Hachiman wouldn't make for a good fit. This, I feel like, is the balancing act of why Yukino and Hachiman wouldn't make for a good fit as they are now, right?
Yeah.
Because both of them are so stubborn that if even when Hachiman is, not maybe making the not accommodations, but the sacrifices or whatever, he's not
Sacrifice
changing.
is a good word.
Yeah, he's not making the sacrifices in the way that she wants. He is still making sacrifices, right?
Yes.
And she is not able to accept that because it doesn't hold to her sort of paladin ideals, the specific way that she wanted things to go.
But I think it also correlates to some understandings and requests and some beliefs that they had about each other, or at least she had about him, to where his decision here is one that basically doesn't involve their connection or relationship or dynamic.
Gotcha.
And that feels a bit cold, maybe.
So go into that a little bit more.
I just feel like Yukino feels a bit left out of this.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is something where she's more or less kind of okay with this method comparatively to the other one. Like, it's a better option.
Yeah, she still decided to drop out of the running for student council president.
Yes. But the way she kind of did the and here I thought you would understand, and then left, I gotta say, just with regards to verbiage and stuff like that, that's probably one of the most cold, maybe even petty.
Yeah, like passive-aggressive kind of.
Yeah, that felt very passive-aggressive. It felt like Yukino was kind of saying, if only you were smarter, you could have figured this out.
Right, and
it's like
not her style usually.
Yeah, so what I think happened is that she got emotionally compromised by this whole thing.
Sure,
because
I like it.
Hachiman's decisions here hurt her in some way.
Right.
And I think what she was making an emphasis of prior to him was, you need to, change up your methods because they're not sustainable for you.
Okay.
So what he kind of did was he cheat coded his way out of changing by saying, I'll ask everyone else for help. And then I'll kind of come back to you guys with the, hey,
I figured it out.
Yeah,
right. Okay, yeah, I love that. Because it's something where, in the case, well, like say with Komachi, right, he actually opens up to her and is like, hey, I need help, right? Is vulnerable.
Yep.
And the stuff that had happened in the past wasn't as big of a deal for her, even though he still did need to apologize because she's known him all her life.
Yeah.
They're used to this song and dance, right?
Yeah.
In the case of Yukino and Yui, it's different.
Right.
Now, the thing that he addressed was the technical issue of who would become student council president, but it wasn't the root issue of stop keeping us at arm's length.
Yeah.
And the way that he did it was sort of in a, hey, you know me, I have to use an indirection for this, but
I prefer it.
Or right, I prefer it. I choose to, But I am making a sacrifice here. Is that enough, right? And then Yukino's making the point of,
why do you have to be the one that keeps sacrificing here?
Well, and also you didn't sacrifice. It feels like it's the you didn't sacrifice the one thing that we actually really cared about. The student council president thing, that's not what we really cared about.
No.
Right?
No.
The thing that we cared about is the fact that you did things that caused yourself pain and caused us pain and keep us at a distance and all of that
With the
stuff.
confession.
Right, with the confession.
Yep.
And this doesn't show any change in that regard.
No.
Now, hopefully, she would have hoped that he understood that that's what it was about, but it seems like he didn't.
But to be fair, to Hachiman here, it's kind of not really her business if she's not willing to be vulnerable herself here.
And he did.
So,
well,
I think you might be a little bit in the weeds here, Yukino.
Right.
Just a little bit.
And one of the things that I love about this is that she says, seems like you didn't understand. Hachiman did understand, I would posit, but it's actually just that with where he is right now, he's not willing to come fully into the middle, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the with compromise, you both have to meet each other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And as a result of that, you kind of end up with no one being happy. But he did a great job with his half of the compromise, right? And then Yui, because she's a lot more flexible, ends up coming and sitting next to him and fixing his hair and things like that, showing that they're all good now, right? Even though, one might say that the stuff that Hachiman did potentially hurt her a lot more personally rather than like idealistically like it was for Yukino. And that's the big difference between the two of them, right? That's the thing where Yukino is being stubborn, Yui isn't. They both have their own flaws and their own differences and things like that end up causing trouble within their relationships with each other.
Right.
And we'll, I guess, have to see how it plays out with Yukino in the future, but yeah, I love how this went. I love it so much.
I really gotta give props to the Yui Hachiman bit at the end where she goes and then starts ruffling his hair and stuff like that, because she really likes him, but this is one of those moments where she's kind of being almost a bit of an emotional caretaker here, where she's realizing, ooh, he's not feeling well about all this. So she kind of gives him the encouragement of, you did your best. And he's like, oh, I didn't do anything. And she's like, no, nothing we could see anyway.
Right.
But I bet you did something that'd make an unpleasant sight.
And you kept it out of our sight.
Yeah, and you probably can't change your methods that easily. So she's very quickly divining the idea that she kind of understands why Yukino is upset. But I love what she's doing here, because she is indirectly giving him then the answers to why Yukino is upset. But she's not actually just giving him any kind of answer there, because one, she probably doesn't know entirely the whole reason.
Sure.
But even if she does know the entire reason, it's not her place to
make him do something.
To make him do something or to get in between the two of them and pull them together.
Right.
Again,
that's not her job.
Exactly. This is an evolution of the running for president thing.
Yeah.
This is showing that she's growing from this as well. So then at the end of this bit here, when she says, and that guilt won't go away, he quickly goes, huh, like, I heard that I felt that. I couldn't do anything, but I still ended up wondering if this was the right thing to do. So I'm sure it'll eat away at you even more. Things will go back to normal, right? And they go, I don't know, and look over to Yukino.
Yukino's spot, yeah.
So, the idea of things going back to normal, maybe, eventually. We'll see. But the big part of him kind of needing to acknowledge kind of what he did, and then just be okay with maybe talking about it so that it doesn't eat away at you, through all this bit here. Kind of saying like, hey, I'll kind of give you a little head massage and stuff while you're dealing with this bit here. So
also, one of the things I want to point out about that, so Hachiman has been constantly keeping them at a distance. And he still is kind of keeping them at a distance.
Just like everyone else.
Or at the very least, he's not telling them that he's not keeping them at a distance anymore. That this was like he did the thing so that way they could all be in the club together, right? But he still isn't addressing the maybe some of the hearts behind the demand.
Of course. The only person he really gets that close with is Komachi anyway. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But what we see here is that by Yui going and sitting next to him, it's not just that she's like
talking to him.
Not just that she's talking to him,
Right.
but she's basically realizing that he did his own bit of compromise, and now then she's doing her thing of meeting him in the middle. She's literally going over the distance remaining between them and going over to him. Planting herself there, but then also doing something that might have potentially been unwelcome before of the physical proximity, potentially overstepping her bounds. But because she's acknowledging that, hey, this is your way of being vulnerable, this is your way of basically admitting your mistakes and things like that. I'm now going to start doing this because I like it. I'm recognizing what happened, right? And by doing this, and he even like fidgets for a little bit of like, hold on, no, stop, you don't need to do that, right?
Well, that was him after she said, you did your best. And he's like, what? You did your best. And he's like, I didn't do anything.
Right.
And then she mentions the guilt thing, and he like kind of gets uncomfortable at that. But then it's also fidgeting after she like physically touches his head and stuff. So yeah, it's the evolution of I'm being the nice girl, but I'm being a good friend right here,
and I'm being perceptive enough to realize that you are in a state right now where you can accept that, because you normally wouldn't, and you definitely wouldn't say it out loud, right? Which is again just me being like Yui's awesome.
I can tell why you're very excited about the developments this episode, because I'll just say, if things trended in this direction for about 2 more episodes, I think Yui and him might end up together. Actually, there's reason to believe why it would. The main issue as to why it doesn't is that he is still actually very guarded surrounding his inner circle.
Baby steps.
Still, Yui is not there yet. Just like everyone else he interacted with other than really Komachi for this entire little charade here.
Right, and Komachi was even saying, hey, I'll be your crutch for this by, this is what I want you to do, and even when they're talking with the friends and stuff, she's like, but, bro, will you do this for me? I really want this to happen, so that way he has that kind of excuse. And so,
she also brought all the people there to really help, other than Zamakuza, I guess.
Right, but that is something that just it makes me really happy, and then it's also something where frick, I mind blanking on this.
Which character?
With the whole conversation bit between Yui and Hachiman. If I remember it later, I'll come back to it. But
let's talk about Iroha here then, because one of the things that they did really well with her character is they basically completely redeemed her in one episode. She was kind of terrifying the way they had that little moment at the mall, and I really didn't like where I thought they were pushing her character to be, and just in terms of like, she's going to be a problem character for Hachiman. But with this here, by observing the idea that, if this is how she is and this is who she is with regards to putting on masks and stuff, he's like, actually, she's really easy to handle then.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, he kind of took the dark genius here by keikaku dorying her completely into his plan, and then made her now entirely like and respect him in a lot of ways by showing how he, in some ways, pushed her into this situation without telling the truth about the names list.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a way in which they bonded over both maybe ending up being manipulators, a little bit. So I saw it as a way that which it was like wholesome in a they're understanding each other a little bit more, except one of them has a very clear high IQ setting advantage. So the fact that he's doing this could lead to a lot of issues for her in the future, because he is lying about a lot of things as if, not lying. He is acting confident about things as if he is certain that things will go a certain way, but they do not have to.
Yeah, he's using falsified data.
Exactly.
But the thing is that at the same time, this show has shown that, false data can sometimes achieve a real result.
True.
And she might never realize that, that third of the student body, they didn't actually want me.
No, if anything, only about 28% of them did, you know.
Yeah.
28% of the third,
Of the
you know?
third. Yeah, right. So, I loved how that resolved itself
And
because
okay.
because it was like because before I feel like the big potential issue with her character for me wasn't the way that she was in any one particular way. It wasn't the way that she her flaw. It wasn't her flaw. It was the fact that she didn't have a way to bring levity or entertainment or and not entertainment in like comedy, but like it was just something that was like, oh, scary, that could cause trouble, right? But
But she was kind of the ditzy one.
well, but that was all the mask, right? Like the way.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, right?
Well, no. It's interesting, but the way that it involves itself with Hachiman, like how does that actually play out?
She could have been a character of everything he despises, but it's just something that he gets to have the pleasure of seeing. Whereas it's not something where he could have been fooled by it.
Okay, so it's maybe I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but the idea that he didn't necessarily know how to navigate that relationship with her, right? Because it was all sorts of weird because, you know, she has the mask and all of that, right?
Oh.
Now he does.
Oh.
Now he does.
Oh, gotcha. I my interpretation, I get what you're saying. I was just saying my interpretation of it immediately was that he was just like, oh, that's a mask. Like, that,
sure.
It was just that thing where he was like, oh.
Right. But like, yeah,
But yeah, like her character is one that being the one with a mask, what makes her herself, like what's her true self, and then we kind of saw that here with the Hayama stuff.
Exactly.
Like,
the contradiction of having this strong mask is entertaining for the audience of just that makes for an engaging character.
True.
But then as far as making her interactions with Hachiman interesting, the fact that he understands that mask and then is specifically injecting things into their interactions to cause different stuff to happen. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole thing of like the problem with masks is that if you wear a mask, then that means you're broadcasting to the world that if they find out what that is a mask, they know what you want.
Yep.
Because then it's clear what that mask is addressing.
Extrapolatable.
Exactly, right.
You can,
Yep. And as a result of that, once you found out that the mask was there, you know, even things like her little Freudian slips of like, oh yeah, I'll hold hands with Hayama, you know.
Right.
Like there you go. It's little things like that he's then able to pick up, and then in their interaction, they're able to both get what they want out of each other, even if she doesn't have all the information. That is, in cinema, that's considered a love scene, right? When both characters achieve their objective within the interaction.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And that was the thing that I forgot about the whole bit with Yui and Hachiman is that they basically here had a love scene in that
they both won.
Right?
Right.
Yukino is the only one that didn't
win.
And that's why I'm really curious to see what happens in the future with that, because that's the conflict is still unresolved, right?
Yeah, and I would say it's particularly exciting because she's the one that has both like hated his methods the most and also been impressed by him the most. Not by his methods, but by him. Like in the same way that they were like kind of friends in a weird way in the very beginning of the show, they've kind of shifted back into that role of where it's like, oh, that's your territory? Oh,
right.
Okay. This is my territory. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now they have this impasse of sorts where Yui occupies that and territory in both of their spaces. It's just like, well, okay. Yeah. I have to be okay with this. Which you should be. You should be okay with it, Yui. It's not your responsibility. They're not grown-ass adults, but they're pretty dang close to being. So
let me know what you think about this. But the impression that I'm getting is that there's this part of Yukino that really respects Hachiman because he holds strongly to his ideals.
In a weird way, yes. I think that's entirely accurate.
But then the biggest problem she has with him is what his ideals are. And then their ideals basically butt heads.
Okay, what if it's that? What if it's that? It's not what his ideals are. It's that she sees the deception. She sees the self-deception and sees the part where he's actually not entirely sticking with his ideals. Like the parts of where, like, okay, so would Hachiman's main flaw be that he himself is in deception or he is deceiving others?
Ooh, because he's doing both.
Right. But which one is the main problem? I would posit.
I would say that it's that he's in deception.
I would say that he's in deception.
Right.
And I think that Yukino is observant like Hachiman. Hachiman's main thing that makes him in some ways more equipped than Yukino is that he maybe has a unique bit of self-reflection, like insight kind of aspect with regards to himself, and is very perceptive of his environment, whereas Yukino is very perceptive of her environment through the lens of how she deals with her internal
she
state.
can get blindsided a lot more.
She can get blindsided a bit more, right. That's why Haruno is really good at manipulating her.
Right.
And why Haruno's thing of, maybe, you should try to pushes her to be student council president is still kind of in effect right now.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it, because it's something where Hachiman's way of, hey, if I deceive other people to get the result that I want, what he did here is that he acknowledged that he had been deceiving himself, and then he continued to deceive himself, but this time in a conscious, active way, with like how Komachi helped him and everything, in order to achieve the desired result. So that could be considered to be a very healthy form of self-deception, in that it's I trick myself into doing the thing so that way, like, there you go, right?
Yeah. He might have still avoided a couple things with regards to how this still affects him and his relationships here. Because,
especially with Yukino.
Yeah, I don't think even Yui necessarily was given any kind of big in with regards to this, and that's why he still apologized to her.
Okay.
So maybe what was just needed was for him to approach the result of the thing of what he was doing here with them with hey, I'm going to work on something. Like, this is before he gives them the result, and saying, I'm going to work on something. It kind of could solve the whole thing. It's using one of my methods, but just by communicating that that's what he's going to attempt to do, they can then kind of do the thing of, okay, should I wait now and check to see what it is afterwards? Because it gives them an opportunity to trust him in a way that could be kind of unique. But by the way he kind of shows up and just kind of flops the
I did this,
thing and just goes, I did it. There's maybe even a competitive kind of lack of, there's even a condescending maybe aspect to it, where it's not that Yukino's pride is hurt, so she doesn't want to connect with Hachiman through this, but I think it's the thing of where it communicates something else. It's kind of a callback to where Komachi said, the reason why they're hurt is because they don't know what you're thinking. But I think Yukino is the kind of person who is usually very certain about what she thinks she knows and doesn't know.
Right.
And I believe she has a currently ironclad belief about why Hachiman is doing these things. And this just reinforces that rather than kind of deviating off course of her current beliefs about him.
It feels like it's something where she's got tunnel vision, because there's a thing where she's technically right.
Right.
And that isn't really changing. And because of that, that's all she sees. So she doesn't see all the other stuff surrounding it, kind of.
Well, no one should see that. That's the whole thing with Komachi, being like, no one else is going to really know why you're doing this. That's kind of my whole thing. But
that's why I love having with Yui so much, because it feels like she kind of did.
Exactly. I think what Yui acknowledged, and she says it here, is that there was some unsightly things that you did. And that guilt and the issues with that will eat you up. That will eat you up inside. Let me get the exact thing that she says here. But I understand that it's not easy to just change who you are. You probably can't change your methods that easily. And just because you do something in confidence doesn't mean that you're sure it was necessarily the right or the best thing to do.
Sure.
And it's not about knowing that.
But you did your best.
And I think that that's maybe the part where also the perfectionist in Yukino might need to address the idea that doing your best
is okay.
Well, right, but doesn't necessarily mean doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And this is a part where I would almost call back to some people in my life who have told me in a lot of ways, it's not about doing the right thing or the best thing, but it's about being confident to keep going when you do the imperfect or not the right thing.
Right, because eventually it'll correct its,
there's other things that are needed before you don't just automatically
correct, but
time
eventually
does not heal all wounds.
Right, but
or
if you
all bad behavior, belief systems or thoughts.
But if you take time and multiply it by some amount of work, effort, whatever, right?
As long as it's not a negative number.
It'll take it in whatever direction the work is going.
Change the geographical location you are on the three-dimensional grid that is life.
Exactly.
But usually these kinds of setups are all based around some element of miscommunication. And Komachi was the one that earliest in the episode, which means it's one of the most important elements for the story of the episode, brought up where the miscommunication lay most likely. And that is that the people in Hachiman's life do not know what he's thinking. So he needs to be willing to communicate what he's thinking. Otherwise, they might even assume something worse. Because you can't assume that they're always going to do the right thing and just not assume the worst about you. Because, Hachiman, you don't necessarily have the greatest track record with regards to your methods.
Yeah.
And it is something that maybe will get brought up eventually. But I would love to have any of the other characters bring up the idea of, Hachiman, the fact that you use this method is something that we have to accept, but it every once in a while probably worries them that he'd use this method on them.
Oh.
And he would have no issues with it. And in fact, he kind of already has, maybe. So I don't know. I would love to have that be something that they get into just at some point, because in a relationship that's just kind of friendship and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you see this friend that you're getting to know more and more have a specific pattern that is self-destructive, it's not really one that's hurting you, but you can see how it could eventually spiral out and hurt others. You can start to kind of think in the back of your mind, you're like, maybe I don't do X, Y, or Z with them just to cover my own bases. It's kind of the thing of where you're like, if this person is a reckless driver, you're like, I'm not going to go on road trips with them as the driver. I'm going to still be friends with them. I don't have to force them. You must change your life, Paladin.
Right.
You're in violation of the laws against Skyrim. They're people. No, you basically just kind of bring it up at some point and be like, hey, I don't really feel as safe around you when you're doing that. And I think that kind of conversation could be juicy.
Okay.
Yeah. But everyone was on fire character-wise this episode.
Everyone was on fire this episode. I feel like every single line that Komachi said and every bit of that interaction.
I wanted to cry.
Oh man, that was so good.
So good.
Can we just go through and detail some of the things that they did with that interaction? So, chance encounter, right? She's just awake late at night or whatever. He takes the first step. He says, "Hey, Komachi, you want some coffee?"
Yeah.
Now, the whole beginning part of this interaction, she is not saying anything more to him than absolutely necessary. She is giving him no offerings, right? And in fact, it's a pretty stark turnaround when she finally does. Her face lights up, she smiles, all that stuff. Okay, we've got the interaction going.
Yeah.
But along that way, she is also not holding him at a distance. And this is something that I really like, because it almost feels like she's basically trying to teach him within this interaction while she's mad at him, right?
Definitely.
Hey, there's an issue here.
This is maybe how you could breach a gap between you and
Exactly.
Yukino or Yui.
Right.
Just saying.
And he does the thing, and he does the thing that is because of my pride, stubbornness, whatever, I'm not able to see, hey, Komachi, can we talk? But he says, do you want some coffee? She knows that is
code for him
basically being, I can't
to spend time with you.
I'd like to spend time with you. I can't just say that right away because I need to build up to that.
Yep.
So she accepts it
to give him an offering.
To give him an offering, but her overall demeanor does not change.
Nope,
it's still I don't face him. I don't say anything more. It's just matter of fact responses, right?
Yep.
And then once he actually starts to open up about it, then she's like, okay, all right, we're good. Let's do this.
Right.
And I love that so much.
Good.
Because
very good.
Because there are few things more disheartening than when you feel like you're getting to that point of emotional possibility, right? Where change could happen, right? You know, you could get a good scene, you know, where both people get what they want. But because you're not fully 100% there yet, and there's some bad blood, maybe because of things you did, that when you extend that olive branch that might not be immediately recognizable as an olive branch, the other person slaps it away because they don't want to see you right now.
Right. Yeah.
And then, well, okay, and then you're either hurt or defensive or whatever because you're like, why couldn't they have seen that was, you know, the case, right? So it's just more buildup of Komachi, you're wise beyond your years, and Hachiman, you are very lucky to have a sister that understanding.
Yeah, and that whole aspect of the convenient luck of her being your sister extends out to, you know, the fact that, well, you have a convenient bit of luck that you are in this club with these two wonderful girls.
Serendipitous encounter that has led to some awesome things.
But you haven't spent 15 years with them yet.
You haven't. And again, that's why I love the whole bit with Yui at the end, because it's like she's starting to clue in of, okay, this is the way you do things.
Right, but this could also be progress for you.
Exactly.
Like, she doesn't know 100%, but she does know that he did his best.
Yep.
Like, the results speak for themselves.
Right.
She doesn't know the process that brought him to this place, but she's like, wait a minute, this is not the person that was sitting in the classroom doing kind of nothing and kind of silent protest previously.
Yeah. His arm isn't stiff-arming her. There's a little bit of a bend in the elbow so that, you know.
He's kind of doing the...
Right, you know. Yeah. So
So all she has to do is kind of...
Yep.
You know, and things can start to move in a good direction. I liked the idea, though, that Komachi basically saying, like, hey, I am the one who can do the baka and, you know, shrug it off with a smile, or, he's a lost cause, and that'd be that. But...
And I'd still be a little... Yeah.
But the way she said this here, only basically saying, but I'd still be a little sad. This is something that I feel like on a scale, like differential, I don't know if the words I'm using are right here, but what I'm basically saying is to compare her to Yukino, for instance. Yukino thinks these exact same things here. What a lost cause. Baka. Exactly. But the thing is, she doesn't smile it off. She doesn't just get a little sad.
Yeah.
She takes it in and just goes,
yep.
What? Like, why do I even try? Or I get really hurt. So the fact that this is the moderate kind of Komachi way of responding to it, it makes what she says afterwards just really important. And she says, but it's not that simple for others. I'm sure they're hurting because they have no idea what you're thinking.
Yep.
You're nice to me, but you're only capable of that because I'm your sister, right?
In other words, it seems like you're incapable of being nice to anyone else.
And that's a very pointed, like, hey, you might want to look into that. Just because you've been hurt by people being nice to you in the past doesn't mean that you shouldn't be nice to those people around you.
Yep.
Now, while they might be surprised all of a sudden if you end up doing something nice, because they're going to be like, oh, who are you and what have you done with Hachiman?
Right.
And they mean it all in the, you know, in a loving way, of course. It still will be shocking to them. But it will communicate that something is different internally.
Right. That you care enough about them in order to...
Or it leads to a conversation where they go, why? We need to talk about why.
Yeah.
Are you... Because they could... I'm just going to say, you project out your own worldview, in this case, Hachiman. They could think that you're trying to manipulate them.
Yeah,
because
that's true. Yeah, they might not be trusting. Yeah.
Right. So this is a big first step for him if he basically heard and understood what she brought up here.
Also, the whole thing of... only I'd still be a little sad. That's a great way to basically say, hey, this kind of works. We have a fairly good way of handling this, but it's still not perfect. It still makes me sad when you do this. So just because I can navigate it, that's me handling a bad situation really well. Not that the situation isn't bad. So really, you probably want to look at that.
Yeah. I love the bit where he's like, she's like, I've been, wait, no, what did she say? She says something
I think she was saying, I wouldn't even
spend time with you if you weren't my brother. I wouldn't give you the time of day. And he's like, well, I mean, or so you say, but come on, I have some things going for me tonight. She says, as if you're a total pain.
Right.
And before he can really feel too hurt by that, because he does kind of go, and she leans on his shoulder and be like, hey, but you spend 15 years with anyone, or she's just someone, and you'll grow fond of them whether you like it or not.
Yep.
And that is a long time.
Yeah.
But I like with what she's saying here is basically saying, hey, if you stick around in that club long enough, those two girls are going to really end up caring about you, and you'll care about them too, but
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So it's also kind of a reinforcement of, you say you want to keep things the same, but just a little reminder again, they cannot.
They cannot.
They cannot.
So just by you spending time with them,
it's a universal law.
Right. You need to be ready, basically, for that moment where you get worried about the fact that things are changing, and you could theoretically, like reflexively, like push everything out all of a sudden,
like you've been doing. You know.
Yeah, I have personal experience with that. I remember there was a time when I was in a situation where there were some people that I ended up spending a lot of time with, and I ended up getting really familiar with them. And suddenly everyone started dating each other. Like, it was just this really, like, quick thing where there's the friend group, and you're all spending time, and then you realize, like, oh, all of a sudden, oh, wait, they like them, 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 and you're like, oh, no, I'm the one person here that literally has no interest in any kind of romantic stuff or what have you. But that didn't mean that they necessarily came into this group with that intention.
Oh, right.
But that aspect of it just kind of weirded me out, because I was like, no, things aren't going to stay the same. Things are changing. I don't like this. And then I just abandoned the friend group. And it's like, oh, missed out, Caleb.
Yeah.
Oof. You got to got to be willing to roll with that kind of stuff. But also the fact that she's like, hey, you've got a long road ahead of you. So like, just know that in that future and stuff, you'll want to treasure those things that you don't think will ever change, because they will.
Right.
And over the course of that time, you want to be ready for that change.
And
I'm very excited also eventually, because I feel like this show deserves it at some point. This show should do some small time skip, just so we have the effects of
whether it's at the end of the show
or something.
Or
yes.
Yep.
Totally could just be at the end of the show.
Yeah.
I want something like that. That's not long, not a long one. I don't want 10-year time skip or anything like that.
Unless it's at the end of the show and it's them like
sure. But I mean, like, if it's within the
kids.
Show's bounds and stuff like that. Have it be like a summer or something.
Oh, sure.
Like something like that. Even though we've kind of already had that.
Yeah, we kind of did.
Summer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Although summers in Japan for the summer break is a lot shorter than it is in the US.
Very short.
But yeah, this whole episode is fantastic. I love the scene with Komachi so much that it goes on the list of like some of my favorite scenes from this show. Like that was
Oh, God, so good.
So good.
Also, Zamakuza being wholesome and making a joke out of it here or there, but actually, no, he's
got your back.
He's got your back, bro.
Yep.
And
him being like
Hachiman acknowledging it too.
Also, I want to point out, if we look at what happened here, this felt like very much Hachiman basically ratcheting up the weight on this training. He starts out with the easiest weight, no weight. That's Komachi, right?
Yeah.
It's just the bar, right?
Right.
Then he goes up and he puts like a little bit of weight on each side. That's Zamakuza.
Yeah.
Right. And then after that, then he goes to the club room.
Yeah. No. So to be fair, before that, he
does the whole thing with Iroha.
Well, before that, even he gets the whole thing where Komachi brings the friends over. And he directly utilizes each one for specific things.
That's true. That's
true.
I
think he didn't actually utilize Psy for anything.
He wasn't really emotionally opening up to them, but it was still...
I need your help.
But it was I need your help.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Komachi... On behalf of Komachi.
Right. This was on behalf of Komachi, but there was a dynamic that was there that was independent of Komachi.
Yes,
so that's important to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Which means it was a little bit more weight than Zamakuza.
Right, but that sort of work, like he's working his way up to the club room, and it's still not
he didn't get a stretch day in between, or a rest day in between, so he kind of with Yukino.
Well, or at the very least, Yukino looked at him and said, "That's not my weight, like not my tempo, like that's not enough." But yeah.
All right, guys. Well. We are having so much good stuff happening, and we're barely into the second season.
Right.
So thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
Yes, we stream every weekday. info's in the description. Why do I keep forgetting to say that simple thing?
So if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.